It's time for your statewide Alabama Weathercast.
Good evening, I'm meteorologist McCombs with the Alabama Weather Network, and this is your evening statewide forecast update. And pretty calm across the state this evening after starting off with lots of rain moving through the state and some gusty winds earlier today. The rain has obviously ended a while back. We've dried out, and then the winds have started to die down a little bit as well. So looking at a pretty calm night, and it's going to be kind of a chilly morning as we move into tomorrow morning here. Now, taking a look at our rain totals, we did pretty well in many spots, not as good as we could have done in some spots, but not too bad overall. So we got over an inch in places like Hamilton and almost 2 inches in Coleman, got over a half inch in Tuscaloosa, got almost an inch in Monroeville, and you got a couple inches in Atmore. And so, we did see, even in the southeastern part of the state, we got close to an inch in some of the spots where we thought we might not do quite as well. Still not everywhere got a great amount. Chatham will come in there with a trace it and great with some of the drought that we've seen, but overall not too bad as far as the totals, and we'll definitely take what we can get there with the rain, with how dry as we have been. Here's a look at your Skycam network, and you've got the Gulf Shores camera. It's looking like a nice night there, and again, it's fairly calm at 75 degrees now. The dew point has now fallen a little bit to 57, so the dry air filtering in from the north, making it all the way down to the coast at this point, and it'll continue to dry further than that over the next day or two. And you can see Fairhope looking beautiful there at the pier at 76 degrees there, and you got occasional gust around 15 miles per hour, although the flag not moving a whole lot right now. Looking in Tuscaloosa at the University of Alabama, it's 65 degrees there. Dew point's now down to 39, so the dry air definitely making it down into the kind of west central part of the state with the passage of the cold front earlier today, and it's looking pretty nice there on campus. And same thing on campus at UNA in Florence. It's 60 degrees there, so it's pretty cool. Dew points in the 30s there as well. And again, the gusts have calmed down a little bit. We were seeing 20, 30 mile per hour gusts in the northern part of the state earlier this afternoon, and but it's not as much now as it was. So here's what we're watching for this week. So dry air continuing to move in, moving all the way through the state. Going to bring us some cold mornings, at least cool, but I'd say even probably call it cold at this point because it'll be some of the coldest mornings we've felt in a while here coming in the next few mornings as we get down in the 40s. So just fall-like weather is ahead for this week. It'll feel a lot more seasonable. We won't be as warm as we were in the afternoons. It'll still be nice, but it'll be about what you would kind of want it to be, I guess, for October. Although, again, we still could use some more rain, but we'll talk about that in a second. Looking at our temperatures right now, we're already down into the 50s in some spots. It's 54 degrees in Coleman, 58 in Hamilton, 59 in Huntsville. Down in the 60s further to the south is 65 in Thomasville, 67 in Montgomery. Still in the 70s all the way to the farthest southern reaches of the state as we're still getting that cold front kind of passing all the way through there at this point. Looking at the wind gusts, again, they've come down, especially in the northern part of the state. We were 10 or 15 miles per hour roughly now. It was up 20, 30 miles per hour earlier. Looks like maybe right there along where you're still getting the front kind of pushing all the way through. You're still getting some decent gusts down in places like Monroeville and Andalusia and Greenville. But those should subside a little bit more as we get into later in the evening as well. Speaking of the winds, but like I said, we got some really gusty winds earlier this afternoon, and there were several reports of non-thunderstorm wind damage. So basically just the gradient winds behind the front, knocking down a few trees and a few power lines in a few spots in North Alabama. So that is something that occasionally can happen, and that definitely we got a few of those reports today. Here's a look at the dew points. Again, you can see how the dry air has really infiltrated most of the state. We got dew points in the 30s and 40s through most of the state. Southeastern corner still hanging around 60. That'll continue to dry out further, though, over the course of the night and through the next day or so, although we will see a little bit more of a return flow with a reinforcing front briefly on Tuesday before we kind of dry out again. But here's a look at your temperatures for the next 12 hours. This is kind of a general idea. You kind of take something kind of a sort of in the center of the state, just an overall broad idea of the fact that most places in the state tonight are going to be fairly cool right now and moving down even cooler. So falling through the 50s and maybe 60s and eventually getting down into the 40s in many spots. Again, especially kind of the northern 2/3 of the state will be falling down eventually into the 40s as we get into the early morning hours. And looking at the forecast lows, we expect to be around 40 degrees in many spots in the northern part of the state, 40 in Hamilton and Gadsden, maybe 45 in Birmingham, and even extending down almost all the way to the coast, 48 in Atmore, 47 in Chatham. So really expecting fairly widespread 40s, which will be, again, I'd say for sure that's the coldest night we're going to be seeing so far this fall. And so it'll be a fairly cool wake up time here in the morning as you're heading off to work and school for tomorrow morning. And looking at the forecast highs for tomorrow, it'll warm back up though pretty nicely. We'll expect to get into the 70s primarily, and maybe some places struggling to hit 70 in the far northern part of the state, but it will not be as warm as it has been. And that'll be the theme for most of the week here. And as we look at our Futurecast, it's going to be very quiet from the perspective of cloud cover and rain at least for tomorrow for sure as we get into tomorrow afternoon. Then again, we have this reinforcing front that will come in Tuesday. And so with that, we actually are looking at possibly some few more showers, especially in the northern part of the state, Tuesday afternoon and into the evening. As that moves to the south, it loses, you don't have as much oomph there with the front, so you'll have less showers, it looks like, as it moves further into the south. So better chance of getting a little bit of rain is more in the northern part of the state with this. Most of the front should be kind of passing through dry. And then again, behind that, more northerly flow, more dry air, and kind of reinforcing the cool weather and fall-like weather after that. So that will not be anything like we've seen today where we had a very kind of more widespread rainfall. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast for North Alabama. So again, tomorrow looks beautiful, sunny, temperatures in the 70s. There's that 20% chance and we might even bump that up a little bit for in some ways that if the model trends keep showing a decent amount of showers in the northern part of the state for Tuesday. But after that, again, you kind of cool back down so that maybe only highs in the 60s or upper 60s on Wednesday, lows down again around 40. I think we're probably going to see some 30s as we get into the next several mornings. And then just in general, the week looks pretty nice, but we might have another chance of a little bit of rain trying to get back in as we head into the weekend, but not looking super significant quite yet. We'll fine tune that. And looking at South Alabama, again, we expect to be nice tomorrow, and then it'll get fairly warm on Tuesday ahead of that dry front coming through. Of course, it should be mainly dry coming through the southern part of the state, and then back into the 70s for a few days, and those lows down into the 40s again. And so again, it looks very nice and very seasonable October weather as we head into this coming week. We appreciate you watching us here, as always, on the Alabama Weather Network.